Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, hope you're all doing well. So after this week's Age of Sigmar news, I'm sure plenty of you have got some colourful answers to that one, and that does bring us on to what today's video is all about. Now originally this video was going to be called Are Chaos Dwarfs Coming to Age of Sigmar? But as I was making it, the news dropped this week that 82 kits for Age of Sigmar are going to be leaving the range, and that includes 2 full factions as well. So I'm not going to go into massive detail and analyse each one, but it did get me thinking, if all these kits are going, what's going to fill the gap, both in terms of models and factions? So the original theme of the video could still be valid, and we'll ask that question later on, but there's plenty more we can speculate on as well. So we're going to start off with the Stormcast Eternals and the Skaven. The Stormcast was a big one, with some surprising miniatures and units heading to the Knacker's Yard. It's pretty tricky, this one, because on one side, I understand that models can't be supported forever, and as new units come, older minis and units are going to have to make way, otherwise you're just going to end up with range blow. I mean, the Space Marines are a good example of this. Some of their codexes lately have been absolutely crazy, with loads of unit entries, and the Marines, they sell well, so they can kind of get away with it. But with the Stormcast, although they're the poster boys of Age of Sigmar, I'm sure the older Stormcast Eternals stuff don't sell half as well as the older Marine kits. And the other kind of understandable part of it for me is a lot of the units and minis that are being retired from the Stormcast are likely to get an updated versions. Just look at the new Liberators that we've seen in Thunderstrike armour, and presumably the new Prosecutors as well. We saw those in the new Age of Sigmar CGI trailer, alongside a new Lord on Griffcharger as well, which is going to replace the Soul Wars Lord Arcanum on Griffcharger, which is another one heading for retirement. And that kind of brings me on to the negative part. The entirety of the Sacrosanct chamber for Stormcast is gone. And some of this stuff's only been around since Soul Wars. The Lord Arcanum on the Griffcharger that we just mentioned, that was in the Soul Wars box. That sucks. You know, a lot of people who got into Stormcast are going to have lots of these retiring units lovingly built up and painted up as like the core of their Stormcast armies, and all of a sudden they're not going to be, you know, they don't have a future. I suppose it is important to note that they are getting free to download digital battle tomes with new background and rules, and they can be used competitively until 2025, but it's still a bit rubbish. And it's not going to be nice knowing that, from at least from a competitive standpoint, the clock's ticking. Yes, you can still use them casually, but it just sucks a little bit. And especially if you got into Stormcast and a lot of your Stormcast are Sacrosanct or even Warrior Chamber, it's just a bit rubbish, isn't it? The Skaven are also losing quite a lot of units as well, but the Warhammer community article did say that a lot of these are going to get replaced with new minis and new units as well. And given what we saw in the new CGI Age of Sigmar trailer, I have done a video on that, by the way, where we break down the trailer and try and guess what new units might be coming for the Stormcast and the Skaven. I'll leave a link in the description to this video so you can watch that. We can guess at a few of them, like Clan Rats, Rat Ogres, Rat Swarms, Warplock Jezzails. They're all heading for retirement according to this article, but if we look at that trailer, they were all in that trailer as well. So I think it's very likely that when the new edition comes along, a lot of that stuff is going to be in the box. And I think with the Skaven being the main antagonist for Age of Sigmar 4th edition, I think we're going to be seeing quite a lot of new stuff for the Rats, especially when their battle tome comes along. Moving on, Beasts of Chaos. Beastmen are heading off in their entirety to the old world. They're just going. Most of it's going to get repackaged and it's heading back to the world that was. And although I think a lot of people saw this one coming, it's still a bit of a sting for any Beastmen players in Age of Sigmar. It's a bit rubbish. And another one that's going is the Bone Splitters. So they're also leaving Age of Sigmar, but unlike Beastmen, they're not going to the old world, at least not in any official capacity, seeing as Orcs and Goblin tribes are already out. But I guess you could use some of them as Orc Boys or Bow Boys or a Shaman or something like that. But yeah, Bone Splitters are gone, getting squatted, which is a bit of a shame. There's also a handful of other stuff that's going off sale and receiving Legends War Scrolls. Again, there's a couple of surprises in there as well, like the big boss on the Giant Spider. Didn't see that one coming. And then there's a load of older Warcry warbands that are now, they've found themselves surplus to requirements, thanks to the arrival of the Dark Oath. And there's some surprises in there as well, like the Horns of Hashut, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the video. They've only been around since 2022, so yeah, that one was a bit of a surprise as well. If you want a more detailed analysis of all the stuff that's leaving the range, there's some really good videos already out there on YouTube. It's been done to death already. Tabletop Tom has done a really great one, which I can recommend because we like Tom, so he's done a good video. Make sure you go and have a look at that one. And I could bang on about how terrible it all is and get the clicks and everything like that, but I don't want to do that. I want to focus on what it might mean going forward for new factions, and also expanding some existing factions. You know, every cloud has a silver lining, although this is, fair to say, a bit of a big cloud. So as I said at the beginning of the video, this was actually going to be called Will Chaos Dwarfs Come to Age of Sigmar? And with two factions leaving completely, the question is certainly still valid. And one of the pieces of evidence I had was the Horns of Hashut warband, but that rug got pulled out from under my feet now that I know that their warband is leaving. But we can still use it as evidence, as their Warhammer community article had a line that said, "Marching ahead of his legendary Dwarden legions, they conquer regions, laying waste to all life forms." So that would kind of imply that the Horns of Hashut march ahead of the Chaos Dwarves, and the Chaos Dwarves could be following close behind. And if we did see Chaos Dwarves return to Age of Sigmar, it might not be all Chaos Dwarfs in the army, you know, not a full Dwarden army. They could be a decent part of the army like elites, but they could also be accompanied by human worshippers of Hashut, just like the Horns of Hashut warband. Another warband also going is the Spire Tyrants. These were also part of my evidence as well, because they actually had a Chaos Dwarf in their warband. There was no mistaking his little tusks, and yeah, I think that was another little piece of evidence. So it's not like we haven't seen them before in Age of Sigmar, and there's even a piece of text in the latest Orruk Battle Tome as well, detailing a big disagreement between the Cruel Boys and the Chaos Dwarves. So the Hobgrots need to act as intermediaries and allows, you know, that still allows the trade of weapons and technology with the Chaos Dwarves. And I think there's some other blurbs as well that state the Chaos Dwarves have built one of the Khornate fortresses guarding one of the realm gates, and I think they've also built some fortresses in Shyish as well. So there is little hints here and there in the text for Age of Sigmar. So I think with a couple of factions going, I certainly think it's possible that the Chaos Dwarves could be coming, and there's room for at least one or two more. So even with the Dark Horse coming as well. So let's say Chaos Dwarfs is one. What could be the other one? So I'm going to put this one to the floor. Let me know in the comments, what do you think a brand new faction could be for Age of Sigmar? Let's say Chaos Dwarfs is one, but what else do you think could be coming? Or if you disagree with me and you don't think it's going to be Chaos Dwarfs, what else do you think could come to Age of Sigmar if new factions are coming? Maybe Dark Elves, but for Age of Sigmar there's definitely room for an Evil Elf faction, or maybe it's just something entirely new. So this kind of leads me on to the next part as well. So forget about new factions, what about existing factions? Could we see some expansions to their ranges? Let's take the Caradhran Overlords for example. They were a new faction. They didn't arrive straight away with Age of Sigmar, they came later on. And when they arrived as a brand new faction in April 2017, most of the range that they arrived with at the time of their launch is what we have now. As far as I know, the only new stuff we've had since they actually launched is the Cordrite, the Endrin Master in the dirigible suit, Drekkie Flint, which was a Black Library miniature really, the Warhammer exclusive store model Admiral Torque Lenson, and then we had Thundrix Profiteers, which was a Warhammer Underworlds warband. So they've not really had a lot of new stuff, and there's definitely room there to expand the range with some sort of new unit that gives them maybe some new tactics or playability, or maybe just something cool like Pirates or the Copper Hats, which are the guys that enforce the Caradhran Code. And then moving on from the Caradhran, another unit that could do with an expansion or maybe even a refresh is Fyreslayers. Now, we talked about this on the Warhammer podcast last week, and you can find a link to that in the description below. I'll leave a link there. There's also a shorter video that we've done as a little snippet from the podcast talking about new factions, and Fyreslayers was one of them. Luke made some grade points. There's definitely some scope there for new units, maybe some smaller cavalry that's akin to the Raptidon charges that the Seraphon have, something along those lines, or maybe some flying units or something like that, or maybe some stuff that they've actually built, because they are smiths after all, you know, give us some lava cannons or something like that. Also, Iron Jaws, maybe they could do with something to complete their range, some sort of cheap screening unit or some sort of unit that can just get in the way and die, and so on and so on. You know, there's definitely room there to expand existing factions, especially with a lot of stuff going out the way. Obviously, I think we are going to get tons of new stuff for the Stormcast Eternals and for the Skaven, but I think the point I'm trying to make is, while it was a bit of a sucker punch to read the news and see all the stuff that's getting the boot, and it really was, it could and probably does mean we are in for a whole load of new shinies. And if it's one thing hobbyists love, other than complaining, it's new miniatures, new rules, and just more stuff to get, more stuff to paint, and more stuff to talk about. But anyway, I think that just about sums it up. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on all the things that are leaving the range, and also what do you think we might see in terms of new things, new miniatures, or maybe even full new factions for Age of Sigmar going forward into this new edition. So please do comment below, let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll do my best to read and respond to them all, because it's one of my favourite parts about making videos, is actually reading all the comments and getting to chat with people and just interact. So please do leave your comments and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by giving it a like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, then please consider hitting the subscribe button, because it really does help me out. And don't forget, you can catch me each week on the Warhammer podcast with Ben and Luke, and you can probably guess what we're going to be talking about in Tuesday's episode. We usually record it on a Monday and it goes out on a Tuesday, so make sure you look out for that one. Anyway, that's it from me. As always, thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.